Well, it's been a little time since we had a good Tom Rants video, and what better opportunity to bring it back than Unicorn Overlord not being nominated for Game of the Year.
Unicorn Overlord.
Hello everyone, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and if you enjoy what I do, including discussing why it is absolute nonsense that the clear best candidate for Game of the Year for 2024 wasn't even nominated for it at the Game Awards, then a like on this video and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. So yes, the topic of this video should be obvious. Unicorn Overlord was not nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards. It was snubbed, dare I say, but it was not just snubbed for the Game of the Year category, but many other categories that it should absolutely have been up for. Best Game Direction, Best Art Direction, Best Score and Music, Best Audio Design. It did got a nomination for Best Sim/Strategy, which we should absolutely be lauding because, I mean, yeah, obviously. And of course, if you are here watching this video right now, there is a very, very strong chance, especially if you've been around the channel for any length of time, that Unicorn Overlord is very special to you. Now, I can already see there's going to be people out there who are like, Tom, what does this matter? Who cares about the Game Awards? It's just corpo, shill, drivel, it doesn't actually mean anything, etc., etc., etc. But I don't think that's quite true. As much as we like to watch the Game Awards and point and laugh at the stupid nominations and some of the ridiculous ads and things like that, I do think it also presents an opportunity for potentially lesser-known games or games that have really innovative art styles or story or gameplay design or overall direction can be recognized for that, and then other studios and other games can be inspired by it. And people who might not otherwise have learned about a type of game that they might otherwise love can learn about that type of game. I do think that having those eyes on what is, to me, the single greatest art form we have, and actually getting the exposure for the creative efforts of people that they deserve is very important. So yes, while there's obviously a lot of issues with the Game Awards, I've been very critical of it in the past. Everyone else has been very critical of it in the past, and a lot of people just kind of point and laugh and enjoy the horse and pony show. I do think that this is worth discussing, especially when a game that is so important to me and to so many of you, that is so worthy of so many categories, gets completely snubbed from them. So with that caveat out of the way, what are we looking at here? Obviously, as I mentioned, Best Sim/Strategy is the category that Unicorn Overlord was nominated in, and I obviously think, personal bias being aside, it is an extremely strong pick for it. I have not played any of the other titles on this list, but I do know that a lot of people do really enjoy them. I've heard a lot of good buzz about Frostpunk 2 and Manor Lords. Kunitsugami, I really haven't heard many people talking about, but from the few folks that I've spoken to who've heard about it secondhand, they say that people who have played it really enjoyed it, so fair enough, it's certainly a visually stunning looking game. And then Age of Mythology Retold is a little bit of an odd one. I don't know, I haven't really heard anything particularly fancy about it that makes it stand out from its original release in a way that would make it stand on this list. It almost feels like something like Metal Slug Tactics, a completely new, innovative turn for that series, should be up here, but maybe that just came out too late. I don't really know. But it's a little bit of an odd one, but I think it's a pretty strong bet the Unicorn Overlord is going to be able to take Best Sim/Strategy. Where we get into the annoying stuff is when we get into some other categories here, like, say, Best Audio Design. I mean, you think about when you are playing Unicorn Overlord, and you get in, and characters are jumping into and out of combat, and different clashing weapon sounds are happening, just the crunching of your feet as you walk around the grass of the overworld, just all of the different really satisfying menu sounds. Like, maybe it's just the inner autism in me speaking, I don't know, but that is way more satisfying to me than a lot of other potential options for game design. That said, there's obviously some strong contenders here, right? Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, like, that's the whole point of the Hellblade games, is its sound design, so that absolutely deserves to be up here. Silent Hill, I've not played, but its atmosphere and the noise of the world and the enemies is obviously a huge creep factor. It's a huge part of what puts you on edge, so it stands to reason that that would be here. And from everything I've heard about Astrobot, it just has that bouncy, fun, joyful, arcadey sound that is, again, very important to game design. The two that I'm maybe not quite so sure about, and I think Unicorn Overlord could probably replace on this list, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Congratulations, you have another Call of Duty shoot a man. Bang, bang, gun go boom. Oh, yes, big explosion, cinematic, woo. Like, we haven't seen that 5 million times in every other Call of Duty game. So that's kind of, like, what the hell is this pick? And then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, like, I'm sure it has really good audio design. Like, all the attacks and character call-outs and all that type of stuff. But looking back at, say, Final Fantasy VII Remake, the music and the visual design and the mechanical design and the narrative, those are the things that I think of when I look at that game. And I imagine it's probably largely the same for Rebirth, unless they really did some truly crazy stuff. So I'm really not sure that that should be up here either. So I feel like Unicorn Overlord should absolutely be able to replace one of these titles, definitely Black Ops 6, in this category. But, you know, what are you going to do? Best score and music? I mean, guys. Dude. Y'all have heard a lot of the Unicorn Overlord soundtrack. I probably have it playing underneath this video right now. It is phenomenal. Some of the best in gaming that I have heard in years. And, like, let's not beat around the bush here. You open the game, and you open on Fare Mal Diavolo, Come Foul Demon, and just, it immediately blows your socks off. Like, that track takes you out to dinner, it woos you, it seduces you, it brings you to bed, leaves you satisfied afterwards, and you want to come back for seconds. Every time that track plays, it is a joy. And the fact that it's essentially what bookends the beginning and end of the game, phenomenal. And, like, every other track is just as good. Maybe not as impactful, maybe not as grand, but so moody, so atmospheric, so suiting every area that you're going through, to say nothing of all the combat music. This is one of my favorite OSTs in gaming, and to see it be outdone by, like, the Silent Hill 2 remake, or Stellar Blade, or Astro Bot. Like, they have good music, don't get me wrong, but, guys, come on. Now, the ones that I can absolutely give the nod to, Metaphor Refantasio, that's kind of the whole thing. The Persona team are very well known for their very strong OSTs, their very strong music, so I really can't complain about that one. And then, of course, I mean, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the 7 OST and soundtrack and music, and, like, we're talking some of the most iconic stuff in gaming, so I can't really push back too much against those. But some of these other options, I mean, maybe they didn't want to have 2 Atlas titles up here. You know, obviously Atlas worked on one versus publishing the other, so maybe that was a weird thing, but, like, come on, guys, what are we doing here? Best art direction, I mean, have you seen Unicorn Overlord? Like, bro, why is Astro Bot here? I know it's a fun, bouncy, poppy, arcade-style game that everyone loves. I get that. I know it blew everyone away in that regard. But have you seen the beautiful Vanillaware art on display in Unicorn Overlord? The entire overworld is amazing. Every single character sprite, all of the art that goes into all of the character animations, the backgrounds of every single battlefield are stunning to look at. The detail on display is insane. And, like, yeah, we've got really high graphical fidelity with Black Myth Wukong, and, like, okay, yeah, Metaphor Refantasio is, like, another Persona game that's always very stylish. It's got really nice menus and everything, sure. But so does Unicorn Overlord. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like Black Myth Wukong is just how hard can we push graphical fidelity and, like, have cool vistas. Hell, even, like, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, it looks amazing, don't get me wrong. I adore Shadow of the Erdtree. But it also is just more Elden Ring in a lot of ways. Whereas Unicorn Overlord is doing something different. So I have a lot of, obviously, art direction is a very subjective field in what is already a very subjective discussion, but I feel like we could easily axe a lot of these games, at least one of them, for Unicorn Overlord. It's such a beautiful game to look at. Absolutely phenomenal game to look at. And yet it's not here. Like, what kind of a snub is this? Finally, best game direction and game of the year. I mean, look, game direction is vital for successfully creating a game, right? This is something that Canadian and I talked about when we did our sort of podcast discussing the whole should DLC be eligible for game of the year, and then voting on all the different categories. And that was one of the things we discussed, was the fact that good or bad game direction absolutely does make or break a title in most cases. Vanillaware literally bankrupted themselves with a 10-year vision to create a reinvigoration of the long-dead Ogre Battle style game in a time where, as far as they knew, there was no interest in any such a title existing. Strategy titles already niche, although they've definitely been getting a comeback recently, which worked out very well for the team that made Unicorn Overlord, but they went forward with that passion project anyway. They put in every ounce of effort that they could, crafting an open world Ogre Battle style strategy RPG with all sorts of quests and classes, promotions, mechanical systems, incredible soundtrack, full voice acting. A brand new world, not set or based on anything else, that they had to write from the ground up. That's game direction. And that's good game direction. Compare that to some of the other things that we have here. I mean, that, again, it's tough because, like, these are well-directed games. I really don't know that Black Myth Wukong needs to be up here for game direction. Like, it's an action title. It's really cool to see a high-quality action title that adapts the story of Wukong. Sure, that is really, really cool. But, like, it's kind of just an action game that looks really fancy. Balatro, I know, is, like, the hottest thing since sliced bread, so I'm not going to pretend that that doesn't deserve to be up here. Astrobot also does absolutely deserve its nomination, because, like, whoever would have expected something like this to exist, let alone be as good as it is. The Final Fantasy games are always phenomenal. Metaphor is one of the ones that, it's very similar, because it's like a huge passion project that people have dumped tons of time and money and effort into to make the perfect thing they wanted to make. But I haven't heard as much hype around it in terms of how well that vision was pulled off. And then, I mean, of course, Shadow of the Erdtree is a masterpiece. So, this is a tougher category, but I feel like we could definitely have ditched Black Myth Wukong to get Unicorn Overlord up here. Maybe this is just an issue of, again, not wanting to have two Atlas-affiliated JRPG titles up here, but, I mean, I don't know, dude. Rebirth is up here, so it's weird, but I feel like of all the categories other than Game of the Year and Sim, Unicorn Overlord deserves to be up for game direction. Then finally, of course, we do have Game of the Year with the exact same potential options. And this is where the discussion really starts to get difficult, because you have to look at what is the total package of a game bringing to the table that makes it worthy or not worthy of being called the Game of the Year. I think we partially have to put aside Shadow of the Erdtree because of the contentiousness of that whole DLC potentially winning Game of the Year discussion. So putting that aside, because there's going to be people who say that shouldn't even be here to begin with, and I get that. If we look at Metaphor, FF7 Rebirth, Black Myth Wukong, Balatro, and Astrobot, I think Balatro absolutely deserves to be up here, first and foremost, as an indie title, as something that just completely blew people away and that everyone is absolutely obsessed with and adores. Clearly that has major cultural impact that deserves to be recognized. Astrobot has always confused me, because again, I know everyone loves it. I haven't had the chance to really play it. What I've seen of it does look adorable. It does look like a ton of fun, but it's always just seemed like it's like a Mario Odyssey or like a Mario Galaxies or Super Mario Sunshine, or basically a 3D Mario game, but not Mario. And I know people adore those games, but it doesn't feel like it's doing anything really innovative either. Black Myth Wukong, again, it really seems like it's just an action game. that got massive popularity because of the interest of it in the Chinese market, because of, the origins of its mythology and everything, which is great, absolutely. And I think it is a very good game, but it just seems to be an action game with, like, really crazy visuals. And that's good. Like, that's what makes the God of War games so good, and other types like Stellar Blade, same type of thing. But is that Game of the Year worthy? I don't know about that. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I think, definitely does deserve to be up here with the amount of effort that goes into it and the continuation of the story in Remake that was already so good, and how it brings such a world to life and adds so much to it that we obviously couldn't get in the PS1 version, because how could you? It would have been 16 discs long. But just being able to see the world of Final Fantasy VII brought to life in the way that they did, while still making the gameplay so fun and the characters true to themselves and continuing the evolution of those stories, is a very daunting task. And obviously, Final Fantasy VII is potentially the single most impactful video game ever. So to have anything that can come even close to living up to the legacy of the original means that this is probably a title that's worthy of being up here. Now, Metaphor. Again, this is an interesting one, because I haven't heard people talk about it that much. And the people who have obviously adored it. You have a dedicated fan base of Persona fans, and then people just getting into Metaphor itself who absolutely love it. I have seen some critics who say that they absolutely love it as well. But at the same time, it feels like it is just Persona in a new setting in a lot of ways, right? And I've seen a lot of people say that about it. So while it's really nice to have that team be able to create something that's separate from the Persona universe, lean into a whole bunch of new ideas and settings and characters that maybe wouldn't fit in that series, that's great. And it's nice that they can evolve on this type of systems and storytelling that they've been building for all these years. But again, is that Game of the Year worthy, or is it just another masterpiece in a collection that is still not doing anything that different from what the other games have done? So, like, you look at Metaphor and you're like, that's a Persona game. You look at Unicorn Overlord and you're like, this is something new and different completely. So it's like, I don't know. I'm not sure. Obviously, there's going to be things, this is all subjective, that people pick apart in my discussion and everything as well. And I totally am welcome and open to that. You're totally welcome to comment and let me know what your thoughts are. But I feel like Wukong and Metaphor probably could be subbed out for Unicorn Overlord. Astrobot as well, honestly, just because of what Unicorn Overlord represents. Maybe down the line, Vanillaware's next major title will be the thing that really puts them on the map and really gets a lot of people talking about it. More than Unicorn Overlord already did, because it did that a lot. But it just feels like it should be up here. It just feels like it should be up here. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. That was just my rant. I've been thinking about this. I've been dwelling on it ever since the nominees came out, and I think it's just, unfortunately, a major slap in the face to a game that is top to bottom a complete masterpiece and so unique, even amongst a year of really, really strong, competitive, unique, innovative titles. I would have liked to have seen it get more recognition. At the very least, I can only hope that it wins Best Sim and Strategy, so that it gets more eyes, and we potentially have more games following more of an Ogre Battle stint in the future. Let me know what your thoughts are on this whole discussion. I wanted to get it out there, have a little bit of a chat with y'all. Obviously, I know there's going to be a lot of bias for Unicorn Overlord in this audience, but, if you have a more nuanced discussion that you want to have, or you just want to shout from the rooftops that you agree with me and you think Unicorn Overlord is the hottest thing since sliced bread and should win every category, even the ones that it's not qualified for, then that's fair too. I would love to see that passion in the comments. But for now, my name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other. Bye now.